Hello all, and I welcome you in this session around basics of email etiquette. I am an IT professional with around 8 years of experience, and if you're someone who is a fresher and are about to join a company, then you are at the right place. And if you are an experienced professional, then this may act like a refresher session for yourself. So, moving on to the agenda, in this session, we are going to cover what is email and why you should use email. What does email etiquette mean? Why is email etiquette important? Informal versus formal email, and some guidelines before you hit the send button. The significance between to CC and BCC field on an email, and finally, some tips while communicating formally. Before I dive into the session, let's take a moment and appreciate the creator of email, which is Ray Tomlinson, due to which we are now able to communicate quickly and efficiently. So, what is email? As we all know, email is an ordinary letter or a message to communicate with a person at the other end of the line. And there are different types of emails. Example, personal and professional. Be it of any type, the most important thing while writing a letter or a message is etiquette, manners. And if your message is not conveyed properly, it's of no use. Rather, it can turn sometimes destructive. So, why should you use an email? Apart from the fact that email is simple, fast, efficient, and versatile, for a working professional, email is something that they live and breathe in. And did you know an average office worker receives around 130 emails per day? So hats off to those guys who end up replying to all the 130 emails, right? Also, most of the working professionals interact with people across multiple time zones, and when those time zones don't match up, they often reply or rely, I would say, on email to get the work done. So what does email etiquette mean? If I had to break this down in simple terms, email etiquette refers to the way we communicate when writing or answering email messages. It is also known as the code of conduct for email communication. Email etiquette depends upon to whom we are writing. For example, if we are writing to a friend or a relative, it will be more of a informal communication. Wherein when you interact with partners, customers, supervisors, or subordinates, it will be more of a formal communication. So now let's take a look at an informal email that is used while communicating with friends and relatives. As you can notice that the subject is enticing, which means it's a bit manipulative, but in a fairly straightforward way. So we have here has joining for the party with a question mark. Then the email starts with a casual greeting stating hiya, followed by the body of email, which is brief and thoughtful, which states, I was wondering if you were going to the evening's party that's happening in our society. My son is going to play piano and I thought it would be fun to write together after office. Give me a ring if you're going and talk to you soon. Jean Murdoch. So here it ends with a casual sign off. Just a note before we move on that the email address mentioned here are fictional. So don't send an email to Jean informing that you would like to attend the party. Yeah. Now, let's take a look at a formal email that is used while communicating with partners, customers, supervisors, or subordinates. The subject mentioned here is a practical one, which is leave application hyphen Ted Jones. A quick tip here is that in corporate culture, you don't address by sir or madam, you address them by their first name. So as you can see, we have a formal greeting and the name of the addressee. Ideally, you want to grab your recipient's attention in 30 seconds or less, and starting with dear sir or madam is not a great way to do this. So when is it appropriate to use dear sir or madam? In today's business world, that answer is never. Then we have the body of the email wherein it's clear and to the point. Here it's mentioned, good morning Stuart, hope you are doing well. I would like to apply leaves from July 21st to July 24th for a family gathering. I will be handing over my task to Ron, who would be my backup in my absence. Request you to please review and share your approval. I will apply in the system once I receive your confirmation. And it ends with a formal sign off and with the name of the sender. So we have thanks and regards, Ted Jones. So here there are questions you should ask yourself before hitting that send button. The first one is, am I angry? If yes, you shouldn't send that email, because you shouldn't ever send an email with emotional feelings. Okay. So the next one is that, should this be a in-person conversation? If yes, don't send that email. Just go ahead and have that in-person communication. Next one is, should I pick up the phone? If yes, don't send that email. Call the person, have that conversation. The next one, have I proofread this? Which means, have you checked for the grammatical errors? If no, don't send it. Do the grammar check and then hit the send button. The next one is, do I want a written record of this? If no, don't send it. Usually emails in a corporate culture is used to document things. So the email that you're sending is not for a business purpose, or is it not for a documentation purpose, then you don't need to send that email. Now let's understand the significance of to line, CC line and BCC line. So the first one is the to line on an email, which means each individual on the to line is responsible for the response or taking the action or part of an action outlined on the subject line, and the message relates directly to them. Okay. Then we have the CC line on an email, which means no action or response is expected from the individual on the CC line. The recipient needs only to read or file the message. A common understanding is that it is just for the recipient's awareness. For example, when sending a leave application, you may want to copy your backup's email address to make him aware of your leave plans. Then lastly, we have the BCC line, which is used for blind courtesy copy. The recipients are invisible to the other recipients, which means the email address which you mentioned on the BCC line is not visible to the recipients mentioned on to or CC field. Usually such kind of field is used when you want to send a mass communication and you don't want the recipient to be aware of who all have received this email. So here are some tips while communicating formally. The first one on the list is, that's not my job. So for example, you have an email from a senior mentioning to do some task which is not related to your skill set. So instead of replying back on email, that's not my job, which is a very casual attitude or an arrogant attitude, you can mention, I'm not experienced in so and so field, or you can mention, I'm not the best person to perform this task. Okay, so the next one you have is, I will not be checking emails while on vacation. So for example, you have an email from a senior member. So on your out of office message, you can mention, I will be traveling without email access, and in my absence, please reach out to so and so person, which might be your backup. Or you can mention your manager's name. The next one on the list is, I need help. So instead of mentioning I need help on an email, which is a casual communication, you could mention, I could really use your assistance in so and so task, or you can mention, I would really appreciate your input. So that brings to the end of this session on basics of email etiquette. Thank you, and please subscribe to this channel, as our vision is to support you on your professional journey. If you have liked the content, kindly give us a thumbs up, and please feel free to share feedback in the comment section.